Yeah, man, I made that. Want to make
I know.
that paper? Want to make that dough? This is the affiliate marketing show.
Catchy tune.
Bro, it's probably, I peaked too soon.
Wanna make that paper, wanna make that dough. This is the affiliate marketing show. Wanna make that paper, wanna make that dough.
What's up, everybody? This is Josh coming to you with another episode of the Affiliate Marketing Show. Please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest affiliate marketing news. I'm Josh Sebo from OfferVault.com, the number one stop shop for all things affiliate marketing. Per usual, we have Adam Young, the CEO and founder of Ringba, your number one pay-per-call tracking platform. We also have Mr. Only Gains, Harrison Gevirtz, as well as two guests on the show today, Yohan Perez, the CEO of Rank Media Agency, as well as Neil Rubin, co-founder and managing partner of Rank Media Agency. Gentlemen over in Montreal, I believe, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
How's it going?
I got
Good. Is Neil really the co-founder of Rank Media? Have I been confused about this for like 5 years?
It's co-founder of Rank Assure, which is the division that we're talking about today. So yes.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, congratulations, Neil. I had no idea.
You did. Back in out of the dinners. Probably not. Probably not.
So I know Rank is a client of Ringba. We always love having the extended Ringba family on the show. Can you tell us about when you met Adam and Harrison, when you decided to become a Ringba client, and what it's like been working with them?
Yes. So we got introduced by Dan Schiff, and may he rest in peace. Introduced the four of us, which became not only a great business relationship, but a really good friendship between the four of us. I think that Adam and Harrison has, they taught us a lot about the business, but also allowed us to expand within the platform and did some ridiculous requests that Neil has been asking for since the beginning. And I think that forged a great relationship and a very flexible platform to use. So we're grateful for all of it.
Yeah, Adam was.
You forgot to tell him that the first thing we ever did was get naked and get in a sauna.
Oh, yeah.
True.
Well, why don't you unpack that for us, Adam? What happened there?
Well, we went to Montreal, which was fun. You know, it is in Canada, so we were a little unsure about our safety, but we went, and they took us to a wonderful restaurant where I had maybe the best. Yes.
It was
maybe
called
one of the
Arthur's, and
best.
those pancakes were fire.
Yeah, dude, it was like one of the best breakfasts I've ever had. And then we went up to a giant sauna spa on a river, and we sat in a gigantic sauna and just sweat our balls off. And then we went home. Like, it wasn't a long trip, but it was a lot of fun.
Okay. To correct you slightly, it was an outdoor thermal experience, and it was done very.
Do you work for the tourism bureau? Jesus.
It was an outdoor sauna, heat, cold, rivers, and a lot of fun. So, yeah, that was our first meeting. But from the day we met, we've been following Harrison and Adam doing what they do, and honestly, it's I come from an old school, right? I come from a business mind where what you keep to yourself, and you just don't advertise your business too much. And I think these gentlemen taught me that there's a big networking game in this industry. There's a lot of peer-to-peer recommendation. There's a lot of great people that'll give you good advice. And yeah, I really respect them for that and what they built with Ringba.
Well, I want to jump right into our first topic of the show with you guys, and that is a discussion about the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, also known as CMS. Now, I'm just going to be transparent with you guys. This is not an area of my expertise, and I know it is for you, Yohan and Neil. So if you don't mind, can you give us like a bird's eye view of what is CMS? What's going on? Why is it in the news right now? And then we can kind of dive into how it impacts our affiliate and internet marketing space.
Yeah, well, I mean, CMS is I guess will govern a lot of changes in the industry. And I think mainly right now, we're taking our instructions and prep directly from the carriers. And, the feeling amongst these partners is that certainly the following will be required by next open enrollment, which is that CMS will require for you to show plans to your audience that only apply to customers in a geographical area that those plans are actually allowed.
Yeah, so, and to go even further into that, there's really two types of approaches that CMS is essentially looking at. There's one that really doesn't need to be approved by them, and that's called communicative approaches, which is really just the long and short of it. They're kind of just generic, nothing, you're not really saying much. There's not a lot of teeth to these types of ads. Maybe you'll learn more, see, speak to, nothing too specific. And we'll get into that a bit more after. But what CMS really wants is what Yohan mentioned. They want this linear path from what they see, whether it's a social ad or a YouTube ad or anything, a Google search. They want them to see that. And that has to be linear to what they see next and then who they speak to. So the idea would be is that if Yohan's in Chicago, he'll be served an ad, could be one of our ads. It's going to be very specific to where his IP is and things of that nature. It'll show plans. In the disclaimer, there'll be some marketing language to it with a bit more teeth. And then when he clicks through, he's going to then either go straight to one of those carriers, or for us, for example, we have squeeze pages with comparison sites that show all the carriers available in that area. And then he can click on any of those and then go right to that carrier. And that's what we're working on essentially. But those are the two options CMS really gives you to market in the Medicare Advantage space.
And although this is a proposed bill for now, we're seeing some pretty heavy lifting on the back office side for the carriers, especially given the growing popularity of delivering calls directly to agents in the field. So, if a customer chooses a certain carrier and you have a field agent that's not necessarily allowed to sell that particular carrier, it's posing some problems. This is not as easy as a call center and take a Ringba ring pool and take a carrier and drop them into that. Field agents is becoming a little bit more popular and a little bit more complex for them to be able to route it. But look, what we're doing to mitigate this is really keeping close relationships with the carriers, certainly their compliance officers. We're sitting on strategy boards. We're working with the tech department. In some cases, we're almost helping them be suggestive on what they can do right now in lobbying efforts to try to guide this bill for it to be a little bit more acceptable to the marketing universe,
I mean, actually, there's been in many instances with two of our carriers, they're actually coming to us. They're like, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
What should we do? They don't want to sound like they actually have no idea what they're talking about, but it's not super clear to them either. Everyone thinks like, CMS is a government. It's under Health and Human Services, so it's part of the government. Carriers are privately public traded, but they're not part of the government. So they get updates, but they're not exactly 100% clear all the time. And we've got a few clients come to us and say, what are you guys working on? How can you maybe solve this riddle? And those have been fun conversations, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Do you know when they're actually going to vote on these proposed rules?
All we really know right now is that we need to prepare ourselves technically to be able to serve the next open enrollment.
Yeah, and Adam, I remember I came up to you quickly. I'm like, we got to talk about something. So it's like Yohan said, it's not as simple as like Ringba can support it, probably better than anyone can support it. We can do the marketing. We could serve the ads to the right geographies and the right locales, and we could get all of that approved and get it done. I do see the challenge being what Yohan mentioned, which is there is a bit of heavier lifting on the carrier side if they want it done properly, which brings us back to the original thing, which is I believe a lot of companies are going to be running communicative based ads like they did last year. which there's no oversight because you just have to keep them generic. And then they're just going to run that. And a lot of carriers might just say, we're only taking communicative this year. So, just let us see what you're doing. But
do you think that the carriers are going to lobby for more time? Because big carriers, like big companies in general, just take a long time to implement changes. It's like if you have a speedboat, you can turn left really fast. You have a cruise ship, you can't really turn left.
Honestly,
that
I
was
don't know what the answer is to that, but I just don't want the same thing to happen than it did last year, which was 2 weeks before.
Somebody just send at 5 p.m.
Yes.
That was fun.
I mean, I think things came too late last year, and a lot of people weren't prepared. So I would actually recommend that they don't buy time, but they get into an agreement and lets the industry know about it a little bit sooner, so that we can prepare.
Knowing our government,
I'm wrong.
I don't see him doing it.
Already been bought. Like, wasn't this supposed to almost go into effect? Like, they've already kind of tried to push back on the rollout of this, I believe. Right?
I don't want to get off topic, but I think there's also the FCC stuff, which I don't want to get into, but that's been more. There's been more.
That's what was pushed off. That's where I mixed it up.
Yeah. So the FCC stuff's a little different, which we will need another podcast and something that would be too boring to actually air. So
like a meditation podcast.
Well, hold on a second. I actually do think it kind of applies. It does. The FCC rulings, which were postponed, are going to affect lead generation. I do not think they're going to affect the inbound calls, but it's going to change how people can do outbound dialing to actually get consumers, which is why I think that the CMS ruling in whatever these rules are going to be I agree with you, come out as soon as possible so that people have time to adapt, because it's like a multi-layer regulatory shift that's going to happen. And I think you're right. It's going to catch a lot of people off guard. I remember getting a ton of phone calls and emails right before AEP this year from clients who were looking for strategies on how to deal with it. And, I don't even necessarily think I care all that much what the regulation is. My hope is that it happens with a decent amount of runway. So guys like you and us even can change technology, can notify customers, can work through all the details and do it in a responsible and ethical way so that business continues to go well for everyone. I think if they wait too long, everyone tries to slam it through and then mistakes happen. They don't get the exact result that they're looking for. And so, hopefully they don't wait till the last minute.
Adam, when these people asked you for strategies on how to deal with it, were you able to make any suggestions that you're okay sharing on the podcast in case someone is actually thinking that who's watching?
Well, that was last year, right? And I don't know what the changes are going to be. I would say that hire a great CMS lawyer. That's usually... Just to interrupt, just to confirm, have they finalized these changes, or are we still in a the government's so efficient? Yeah, they haven't finalized them, and they'll likely be guidelines, not exact rules. I think that's one of the biggest problems with regulations like this that happen, is they'll suggest that you can and cannot do things, but they won't give you specifics about what is allowed and not allowed. A good parallel would be HIPAA, for instance. So to be HIPAA compliant, and I'm doing air quotes right now, HIPAA does not actually specify, for instance, all the security controls that must be in place. It will say something like, use industry standard best practices. And I don't know if that's exactly what it says, but it's something similar to exactly that. And so when we get stuff like these CMS guidelines, if they're not very specific about what is and is not allowed, what happens is it creates a bunch of gray area and confusion. And if you do that right before something like AEP, where it all lights up, the government's not going to get the results that they want, which is a better experience for consumers. And on the other side of that, if we look at the FCC regulations along with it, you might actually create a much worse consumer experience than they hope for. So it's kind of a crapshoot. Yeah. It's just
Yohan and Neil, I want to come back to you guys here. I'm just curious, in your opinion, and maybe this is obvious, but honestly, I don't really know the answer to it. Who kind of stands to like suffer the biggest negative impact if these regulations actually do pass? Is it the people that actually need the coverage, or is it agencies like yourself, or is it everybody? Like, who wins and who loses, I guess, the most?
I mean, in the context of this industry, I think it's going to be the publishers that are not ahead of the curve, right? Publishers that don't have the tech stack to deal with this, don't have the legal knowledge to deal with this, don't understand, that what they've been doing in the past will no longer be accepted.
They don't have the capacity as a company. Like, you need physical people working on this. Like, we've been working on the CMS stuff 8 months at least, and we have a dedicated person for this. We have a supporting team that links in legal with CMS. I mean, this takes time. It takes time. It takes back and forth and back and forth. And frankly, a lot of companies are going to be running away from Medicare. It's just, they're going to get scared and not do it because they might not be able to run the ads that they typically run.
I mean, we've already seen it, right? We've seen a lot of the smaller publishers that, couldn't deal with some of the, I guess the regulations that have come up. But I think to answer your question, Josh, I think it's going to affect the guys in our industry, at least. It's going to affect the publishers that don't have an understanding. If you look at the CMS bill right now, it's hundreds of pages. I mean, if we didn't have, great attorneys and good connections within the carriers there's one thing on how our attorneys interpret the legal language, and it's another how the carriers are interpreting. I think between having a conversation between both of them gives us a conclusion on how to go forward.
Is this stemming from specific bad behavior that maybe some aggressive affiliates did, or is it just overall sentiment that they don't
the
like
FCC,
the marketing?
Yes. The FCC stuff, yes. That's more, they call it like the lead gen loop. You fill out a form, shared, hit an offer wall, shared, hit an offer wall. You have 40 calls. That's bad. That's a bad experience. It's terrible.
Agreed.
That's the FCC side. The CMS side, we've never gotten a complaint. I don't even know many people who have. They typically happen after someone's already had when they buy a plan and they get enrolled, and it has to be enforced by the carrier. Carriers aren't like we haven't heard from hundreds of thousands of calls over the years. Haven't heard a peep. So the CMS stuff and the FCC, they do relate, as Adam said. They really do relate in some areas. They don't typically. The inbound calls are really true. Customer initiated inbound calls should be okay, but to answer your question, no, I don't. I don't think it stems from. In fact, someone asked a question earlier on this podcast that was, I think there might be a slight negative impact to the customers, because as much as there is a benefit to a congruency of the ad to the choice to the agent, there is a congruency, but you also have to take into account shopping. Shopping is okay. It's like, that's the American way. When I want options, I want to shop. Someone making a call to speak to someone about their Medicare needs, they're green. They have questions, and sometimes these CMS regulations, they I don't think they will always help the customer at the end of the day, versus the FCC, which I think definitely I agree we speak with.
Cool.
Yeah,
Adam,
the FCC situation is a necessary evil. Like, to your point, it's not just the offer walls, but it's the sharing of CDR data. It's the offshore call centers, the robo dialing, the spam texting. Like, it is absolutely out of control. I cannot get my phone to stop ringing. Like, it just will not. It's all day, every day at this point. And I've never submitted my phone number literally for anything. And so it's pretty unbelievable how bad that actually has gotten. But to your point, I think the one thing, and this was FCC related, or maybe it's CMS. I can't. There's so much of it, I can't tell the difference. But it's where if you call a consumer, there's a 48-hour cooldown period after you speak to them before they buy. Yeah, the FCC. So like something like that to me is absolutely egregious, because if I want to buy a policy, this is America, baby. I want to spend my money. And the government should not tell me that I can't buy something that's perfectly legal and acceptable that I want. This isn't a gun, it's health insurance, right? Like, sure, 48 hours, I can't buy a weapon. All right. But 48 hours, I can't buy a Snickers bar or a car tire. Like, what? It's the same as health insurance. Like, if I want it, I should be able to buy it. So, I hope the regulators speak to more marketers, and I hope they have much more open-mindedness to public comments and industry players, because if they get too restrictive, it really will actually harm the consumer experience, and I don't think anyone wants that.
Yeah, I mean, it goes against any type of sales fluidity. If you got someone by the emotion and make them realize that they need a certain insurance, but make them wait 48 hours so that sizzle or that necessity goes away, I think it just goes against sales principles. I don't see any reason for that.
And that's in late May, I think May 24th. I think they're going to be revisiting the 48-hour rule. I think if I'm correct.
I mean, if it's a customer initiated request, right?
100%.
Why give anyone?
Can you imagine seeing a commercial for like Foot Locker? I like those shoes. You go to Foot Locker. I'm like, I saw where are the shoes? Are they size 10? Absolutely. I'll see you in 2 days. What?
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Makes no sense. I want to buy them now. 2 days, my friend. Let's see if your foot grows. Like, what are you talking about? Anyway, it's nonsense. But anyway, I think you're right. Marketers need to talk to lawmakers a bit more, for sure.
I want to talk to you guys about your approach when it comes to customer profiling and how you build better products and how you match your customers with the right offers. Over at Rank, like, what do you guys do in terms of making sure you have the best products, and how do you connect them to the correct people?
Yeah, I think everyone in this business started off at a certain level, and I think today we're trying to build shit that matters. And, I believe that there's a space for quick, generalized, wide nets and, short YouTube videos, TikTok ads, cute banners that will, hook a customer in. But how are you properly targeting and profiling that audience once you get them? And, what I really mean by that, and even so, and once you've profiled them, do you know what profile works better for what clients? Are you able to identify that? So I think what we're doing and where it should all start from is customer initiated interest, and whether that's pure search, advertorials, information-based publication sites, or quoting engines. I think the customers, you should give an opportunity for the customers to find you as they're looking for things. And I think that if you really serve the internet with great content, answer questions, solve problems, and give the consumer something that really can make an impact on its decision making, I think that you're doing well. So, to answer your question, we, through our funnels, we profile our customers really well, and we make some decisions based on those profiles. So certain offers that you can put out there that don't necessarily have a one size fits all type of effect. And, the better you are in pinpointing someone's geo, demo, ailments, I think the better that you can be suggestive on what carriers they should speak to, and more specifically, what package from that carrier will work the best.
Yeah, and I think also what I think we've done well this year, maybe it was started more in Q3 last year, but it's continuing to do well, and we'll touch a bit more on it just on like the tech side. But what we've been able to do very effectively is that we used to be a bit more siloed when it came to our verticals. This is health, this is ACA, this is Medicare, and I think now that we've started to build out these internal mechanisms and some tech stuff that we've been doing, that we're able to move someone from one to the other if the profiling makes sense. So someone might come in and you're thinking they're going to end up over here, but then suddenly it's like, oh, they're checking the boxes of all these other products, and then it could move from maybe it was health and now suddenly it's home. Like this actually looks really good for like home or auto and home, and then maybe there's another relatable product or offer that would fit them much better than the initial intent of that acquisition funnel. Maybe it was, a keyword that worked really well here. So we're doing a lot more data science this year. And the data science on the acquisition side to the top of the funnel is really feeding multiple funnels. It's not necessarily going to go into health because we're looking for health. There's a lot of other offers we've set up, and people who work with Rank, they know that we've been fortunate enough over the years to have a lot of very good direct relationships, like direct advertisers. So
I think
that's
to
really big.
give you a good example is if you profile your client, right, and let's just say this is a health insurance candidate, and you really listen to the, to their needs, you send this type of lead to an agent, and agent is going to try to sell them the gold plan. That's just, I guess, sales behavior. They're going to try to sell you the biggest package possible. But if you profile them right and realize, what, they don't really need a gold plan. Maybe they need a bronze plan with an ancillary of dental because they use the dentist a lot. Then I think it's a win-win on all facets, right? It's win-win on all sides. You are able to give the consumer the right plan, so they'll save some money and be able to, utilize, dental because that's what he needs. Sorry. That's and
Did you just get a call on your watch?
that's yeah.
Why would you be that accessible?
No. So by I guess by profiling the customer right, you realize that selling them a gold plan or a gold package is really not the way to go. Give them a bronze, give them an ancillary, he'll pay less, he utilize the services that he really requires. It's a win for me because I'm going to have a better, cost per acquisition for the carrier that I sold this to. The carrier is going to have a longer LTV, and the client is going to get what they want. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And sorry about that interruption.
So are there any
basically
key?
the way you're looking at this is aligning the incentives of the consumer, the lead generator, and the carrier or advertiser that's selling whatever products and services. I guess it doesn't really matter as long as you can align all the incentives.
Correct.
Yep,
That's exactly it.
Yep.
And there's some new tools in Ringba that we've been looking at as well that help with that. I'm not sure.
Oh, shout out Ringba, what up?
I mean, listen, why not, right? Oh, but I was actually surprised I'm wearing a Ringba jacket. Got so much swag.
I was just about to ask why you're not repping the swag, bro.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember, funny story. So, man, I met with Adam at least half a dozen times when we were with Invoca, and I did not want to hear a word about anything he had to say because I was just, the thought of switching and migrating was so ridiculous. So shy. It was like, I can't do it. Too many publishers and clients. Kept at it, and relentless, of course, as you all know. And then we get boxes sent to our office.
All right. Yeah.
With Ringba, jackets. And I'm like, this did it. That's it. We just needed a couple jackets for the team.
All of a sudden, you look around the room and everyone's wearing. You have 25 people wearing Ringba jackets.
Yeah.
I look at Neil and say, we have a choice now.
I know. It was the jackets.
Good move.
Yeah, thanks.
I have to tell you, that was one of the best marketing campaigns I've ever run. And it is the opposite of an affiliate campaign, right? Like, it is literally the exact opposite of what my skill set was at the time. And I was just like, how do I do something that is obnoxious and so different that no one had ever seen it before? And we, you know this. So we sent those types of hoodies and jackets to a bunch of different companies in the space, and almost all of the people, something like 90% of what we sent out thousands of these things, actually became customers over the next few years. And I don't think it had anything to do with the jackets, but I think the jackets just sort of said, hey, we're really different, and we're thinking about you in a really different way, because they were custom to Rank Media. They weren't just Ringba jackets, right? Like, they were fully customized. And this is almost the exact same thing as what you were talking about with the consumers. So instead of just marketing on the internet and putting ads up in front of people, I wanted to find a way to reach my target audience in a way that would excite them and be unique, and make them realize that we thought differently than everybody else. It turns out mission accomplished. You guys have become great friends and wonderful clients. And that has more to do with us working together over time. But like that icebreaker, the first thing that you do, just like what you guys are doing, if you offer the consumer something that's unique and aligns the incentives and shows them something different than what they're continuously seeing everywhere else, they get excited about it. And that's, I think that's generally the best way to approach marketing if you want to build something that's long-term and successful.
I just found out that we weren't the only ones that got the hoodies. And I'm a little devastated. Whatever.
It's too late now, fuckers.
The dime a dozen. Oh, damn.
Yohan, you talked about customer profiling. I just want to know, like, how does somebody profile their customers incorrectly? If we're looking at the flip side of it, like, how did you figure out what, correct customer profiling looked like? Because to me, as like an outsider, I feel like the client kind of probably does most of the profiling for you. So what are you guys doing to really like make sure the profiling is correct on your end?
It's just a question of asking enough questions about the prospect in front of you, right? The more questions you ask, the more you can figure out, like I said, the ailments that they have. I mean, we're talking about insurance right now, but the more you can figure out their other needs, right? If someone's coming in for, auto insurance, there's a lot of questions that you need to ask about home ownership. If you have the opportunity to dive a little bit more into that, then you have an opportunity to profile whether or not they need a refi. You have an opportunity maybe to find out if they need some type of credit facilitation. And I think to answer your question, the wrong way is not to ask, right?
And if you don't tie that back to the top of the funnel, which means like you don't tie those answers back to your sourcing of where you're buying the media and who you're working with to get the traffic in the door, you got to tie the two together. Because someone comes to your property, they're going to answer certain questions, and then that's going to yield different offers. It's going to yield different offers that they're going to end up engaging with. But then you got to take that and tie it back to where it came from originally. Then you start highlighting and pinpointing what traffic sources and what areas where you bought media. It could have been a very small thing that your media guys tested. That's the key. It's closing the loop on what worked in the funnel to what got them to the funnel in the first place.
Just to be clear, you're talking about optimizing the offers and the questions and the consumer experience on a per source level so that you can dial in the mindset of the consumer coming from whatever keyword, whatever traffic source.
And that's the goal. That's the ultimate goal. And then obviously if you want to go even further past that, then you go into the correlations on that source data. You look at, maybe I can get this cheaper that yields the same type of return, and you work on your margins in that case without affecting quality. So there's a lot of companies don't take the results. They just take the results and they're like, yay, it converted. That's great. But they don't tie it back to see how to really put the foot on the gas pedal for that. That's the key.
You know how I like to focus on results? By thinking long term. Yohan and Neil, I want to know, how do you guys think long term in terms of investing into your business? I know Adam and Harrison are going to have a lot of thoughts on this as they've invested into their businesses in the past with long term moves. But in terms of rank and where you guys used to be, where you're at now, and where you want to go, like, what does the concept of long term and future business investment look like to you?
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes back to what we were just talking about, which is investing in tech products, investing in staff, right? Not always profitable at first, right? When you hire someone that's not necessarily giving you a, immediate bottom line ROI, but they're working on your compliance and, they're in the weeds, they're talking to the right people, all of a sudden, 6 months down the line, when they have that connection with that compliance officer at that carriers, and they're already, I guess, in full motion and understanding what needs to be done, well, you can make a decision at the drop. So investing in tech, in product, hiring the best people.
Well, what does long-term mean? Like, how far ahead are you guys usually thinking out?
3 to 4. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say 3 quarters.
Yeah. Yeah, 3/4 for sure. I mean, especially this year, it's been even a bit of a longer churn because again, back to CMS, I mean, listen, Medicare is a really big vertical for us, and we made some investments at the end of last year in preparation for this year, and there was a lot of staffing, and there was also a lot on the data side. We built out some really cool stuff internally. It wasn't cheap, but this stuff's all going to help for this AEP and future AEPs.
I even see it as investing in and contributing time in the right legal or political associations, right? There's a lot of coalitions out there, a lot of people, that have initiatives going on, and, by you joining some of these forces and helping out however you possibly can, and whether that's time, money, or energy, you're also planning ahead. Some of these guys go up and lobby for the entire industry. I mean, if you don't look forward to something like that, then you may lose out. And that's, I guess that's another good example, Josh.
Yeah, you mentioned time, money, and energy. From those three specifically, which one do you think is the most important to a long-term success?
God, ridiculously. they're also even.
Yeah,
I mean, that's an acceptable answer. You could say all of them equally. That's fine. But this is not a show where we take even answers. So if you had to pick one, each of you can answer, and then maybe just tell us why you think so. What would it be?
Listen, I think a business lives off of energy, and whether it's good, bad, or consisting of time or money, I think they all relate. But I think I would say it's energy, it's headspace, it's cycles that you're willing to contribute, and I think that I guess that will pave the direction that you want to go into. If that makes sense.
I think it's energy too. Yeah, I was thinking energy. I mean, that kind of leads into the next section, which we'll get to. But like, energy is we're not 22 years old. I'm not saying you're old, but like, we have,
We're old.
We're not that old, but we have 6 kids between us. It takes up a lot of energy. It takes up a lot of energy and time.
I think Harrison's 22, isn't he?
No,
yeah.
I feel 21. I'm sadly 30.
I'm just afraid that he leans back a little too much and falls into the into the intercoastal over there. So
Harrison was like 22 again.
Yeah,
like there was a movie. It was there was a movie like 18 again. That's what it is. That's Harrison. But anyway,
Harrison, let's go to you here. What is your interpretation of long-term moves? I know you've done a lot of investments into your business, so I'm curious, like, what does that mean to you, and how do you continue to do that to continue to grow?
I think a topic that Adam and I have talked about a lot on the pod is that, when we began, the vision of Ringba and, started building Ringba a long time, over 6 years ago, it was because we were making that transition from being, marketers spinning plates to wanting to build something for the long term. And so, our kind of mindset is that we always we're not focused on tomorrow. We really are focused on that longer term vision and goal. And you can't really get frustrated by those short-term roadblocks or obstacles that you hit when you're focusing on that longer term mission. So, one area that we're really passionate about is definitely just overall team culture, team building, growth among team members. One thing that we've said is, we don't want people to feel like what they're doing is like a job. We want them to see an opportunity. And that is a way that you can kind of share that long-term mindset dribbles down to everyone in the organization. And then it allows for, number one, a healthier culture, but number two, success along the long term, as well as sometimes, a lot of the times in the short term too.
Adam, are you planning 2 or 3 quarters ahead, or are you looking 2 or 3 years ahead?
Years. So, to piggyback on what Harrison said there, we look at this in a couple different ways. For instance, the engineering side, our roadmap is about 3 years extended. And we reprioritize that roadmap on a weekly basis, and we push software out generally every Tuesday and Thursday. But what I think is important about having that long-term roadmap is everyone understands that there's effectively no finish line, right? Like there is no finishing, and that the journey is the most important part. And so when you tie that together with a mission, like for instance, ours is to help businesses grow, to help entrepreneurs grow their business, we don't really stress about short-term issues or speed bumps or problems. They happen, and fine, I'll admit, occasionally, any entrepreneur, I get stressed out. But when I look back and I go, wait a second, this is just a little speed bump. I'm focused on the mission. I'm focused on the end game, and moving the business forward for the long term. It sort of smooths out all of that, and it just becomes background noise, and it helps us remain focused. And I know one of the topics to talk about here is work-life balance, but I'm going to be brutally honest. As an entrepreneur, work-life balance isn't real. If you want to be a really successful entrepreneur and you want to push your team to be really, really successful and provide incredible opportunities for them, and to really build a future and an opportunity for everyone involved, for you and your customers and your team and all that, there is no work-life balance. You either love what you do and you are focused on it, ruthlessly passionate and focused on it, or being an entrepreneur isn't the right job.
So Adam, are you saying you don't have a life outside of work? Am I interpreting that correctly? Or do you just love work so much that work is your life?
Yeah, it's the latter, right? Like, I know what my calling is. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I love the team I work with. They're all passionate about the same things. I built my friend and support group around the industry, right? Like Yohan and Neil are friends first, clients second. It usually starts in reverse order, right? Like a lot of my customers start as customers and then become friends. But, we've had a ton of our industry friends on the show we've known for 10 years. And so by sort of creating that industry circle of people I love, it creates a friend group and a network. But really, my number one priority and focus is on our mission. And if I were to shift that to be something else, I would be taking away from the potential success of that mission. So, there is no balance. It's like completely out of whack.
I do have one more question.
Just to jump in real quick.
Oh, okay.
Real quick, Josh. I think it just kind of came up as Adam and I were talking about that. I think 5 years ago or so, Adam and I would consider 2 to 3 quarters to be a long-term move. And as the businesses and as we as entrepreneurs have evolved, that is almost a short-term thing. Like 2 quarters is quick. We're literally about to be done with the second quarter of the year pretty soon. We're 1 month away, 1.5 months away. Okay, maybe 2 months. I'm rounding up a bit, but my point is still there. Like 2 to 3 quarters ahead today is a lot quicker to us than it was years ago.
Adam, I just have Neil and Yohan. I'm going to get you guys in here in a second, but to piggyback off of your comment, Adam, was there a time in your life when basically you realized that that's what it had to be? Like, was there a work-life balance so many years ago, and then you got to a certain point in your life, or from the womb you were like, I gotta go take over the planet? Like, was there a switch that occurred when you knew you had to go 100%?
Well, Adam was born in a semiconductor fabrication facility, so it's a little different. But go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was born at ASML on an ultrasonic machine. No, so I started my first real business when I was a teenager, and I was all in then. I slept at the warehouse. All I did was work as hard as I could. And what I've learned through that process of failure, and that business failed miserably, we can talk about it another time. Johan's heard part of this story. But the reality is that success as an entrepreneur, especially if you're not going to cheat, like if you're taking venture capital and you're cheating, that's not, that's the easy way out. The failure rates are just as bad, but you can like have ping pong tables and beer. Like the real hardcore entrepreneurs like Yohan and Neil or Harrison and myself here, non-VC funded businesses in ultra competitive spaces, you can't. There is no work-life balance. Like, it's a very competitive game, and if you cannot outwork your competitors, then you don't really stand a chance, especially when you're early. Like when you're brand new and you're a really small team, there is no room for balance whatsoever. You have to be all in or all out if you want to build a business and be successful. And people are going to disagree with me here. I'm sure they're going to say, oh, I can do the 4-hour work week thing and maybe a lifestyle business. But we're working towards building a multi-billion-dollar enterprise value business. And so to do that, we're up against people who have hundreds of millions of dollars in funding. And the only way we can compete with that is to outwork them at a minimum. And so I've learned through multiple businesses that I've run and bought and sold, and some I've done with Harrison, that like, if you're not all in, they're going to fall apart. You really have to be committed. And that's where I get my fulfillment. So for me, and I know this is the same for Harrison, like for me, it's not work. Like, I'm not working, I'm building. It's like a completely different mindset, a completely different thing.
Yohan and Neil, let's get you guys in here. I want to hear both your answers to this. What does the work-life balance mean to you guys? Before we started recording, I know you each told me you got 3 kids at home. We were talking about the family life. So how do you guys kind of balance that with everything that Adam just said? And how much of what Adam said do you agree with? And how much of it do you maybe not agree with, but have your own take on?
Yeah, so look, I've been an entrepreneur since I'm 14 years old, right? And I did it on my own, and I've opened many successful businesses, and I failed at just as many of them. So that being said, I do believe in what he says, that to have the upper hand, especially when you're starting, there is a relentless, focused attitude that must happen, and you have to outwork whoever is pacing right next to you to try to grab market share. I agree with all of that. I also agree that when you really like what you do, you like the team that you have, and you kind of just get some wins together, there's a camaraderie that happens within the office, within company goals, that really energize you, and I think that's fucking fantastic. However, there is I guess there is a middle ground for me. And, we have a combination of 6 kids together, 43 activities. You are you're a proud business owner, but you're also a proud father. And, Adam has taught me a lot of kind of defining the why in life. Why, what's the goal? Why are you doing this? What is it? What is that all for? And, for me, I'll speak for myself. I want to leave a legacy for my children. I want my children to be able to have seen the rise and falls of success and understand that it's only by sheer grit, hard work, and not giving up that you'll see that success. I also want to leave a track of something that they can enjoy. And look, I think that there are times where you have to, plan for your business. And, for me and Neil, and I think, I think everybody in this room, the business never turns off. You could be in a vacation with your mother and father at a really nice dinner, and if you get an emergency phone call, guess what? You're taking it, right? You're taking it. You're solving the problem, and that's the payback to be successful and to enjoy those type of vacations. And I also think that you need to make room for special moments, right? I wasn't, I was into sports, but I was competitively, I used to swim. And, I remember my swim meets were in the summer and they were, during the day. And, it was hard to get my father out of work. My father was working as an accountant, he was working for a company, and, it was hard to get him out of work. But let me tell you, he did his best to be there. And I know that I performed to another level because he was there. He was there to congratulate me when I won. He was there to pat me on the back when I lost. And I was looking for that. And I can't miss those moments. So yes, working at your business is extremely important, but, bringing in your family and being there in those moments, I think.
Yeah, I mean, hard to disagree with that. I mean, we're literally, when we leave work, we also go see each other at the hockey rink. So, I mean, I didn't have the same track as Yohan from an entrepreneurial perspective. This is really my first go. So, I had corporate jobs, that type of thing, ironically in the insurance space for a little bit, but never really was, the entrepreneur in that sense. I would just get jobs. I always felt like it was just completely boring and I hated it. And then, I don't know, fate brought us together, and it's a very, very yin yang situation here. It really is. We really are very different in the way in which we operate, but it's actually very complementary.
Neil works. I had call centers in my youth. I had large call centers, and I don't remember it, but
I worked there for 2 weeks, I think. I got fired pretty quickly. But I was 16. I think you were like 19 or something. He was the owner of the call center. And like in Montreal is a pretty big city for like that type of business. And I remembered him being like the boss at that place. I did not last. But yeah, the balance is tricky, and everyone's, personal, like their makeup and what their personal lives are like will dictate that balance. It might not be as intense for some as it is for others, but we are hands-on, parents. But that being said, I remember when we first started this, it was very much how Adam described. If you really want to make your way and really want to break in, there is no stopping. I remember literally giving my kid a bath, and I had my laptop on during one of the enrollment seasons, and I was like holding the laptop and trying to like make adjustments on the media side. And at that time it was, I think it was in Boca. Ringba would have been much easier to use, by the way. And I was like splashing soap on it. I'm like, get away. Like, I'm trying to like.
I just have to ask, Neil, were you actually making adjustments, or were you just pressing F5 and refreshing your stats?
Oh no, I was actually making adjustments. Like,
okay. Just checking.
And I remember I would stay up.
We would have just done those adjustments for you and let you give your kid a bath. Just saying.
I mean, this was so. And I remember I had 2 clients. I remember who were they were big clients, and they were 2 of our earlier clients, and they wanted to make sure that the flow was very specific every hour to maximize and make it perfect for every hour of AEP. At the time, actually, OEP was a bit bigger, and I would stay up till it was over, till the deadline. And I would just stay up till midnight. When midnight hit, he's like, all right, we're done for the day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And that was it. I went to bed, woke up, started again at 6 a.m. with the kids, like, throwing up on your head. So
I want to ask Harrison a question here. Harrison, what's your strategy on work-life balance and kids?
Well, I was going to say that if I did have children, which given my current trajectory is pretty unlikely, that I would follow Yohan and Neil, because they definitely they're good at it. But I would like to say, you can sleep when you're dead, everybody. And I will use that for all aspects of work-life balance.
T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I'm so committed to our future that I'm not having kids. So what's up? That's all I'm saying. No balance, Josh. Zero balance. Not even possible. I don't want to balance.
Any more dogs?
No, I don't even. No.
I know what you were about to say there, and you stopped yourself, I think.
I don't know what you mean.
Fuck.
You mean my wife's dog? Yeah, he's cool.
I see. I'll end it off with this. You know, it's hard to balance it sometimes because at the end of the day, who are you doing this for? Like I defined, my why is my family, right?
For jet fuel.
It's exactly, it's what propels me. But kind of just, saying, okay, I could just give myself 2 hours more and finish this versus going to my kid's recital. I'm doing this for them, but at the end of the
But
day.
don't they film the recital so you could watch it later?
It looks for you in the audience. They literally, and I would get home without going to that recital. I could get a grilling. I could. But that being said, I think that's the challenge, right? You're doing it for them, and at the same time, you don't want to miss moments. So look, just an even balance, and try to do what you think is best.
Yeah, we done pretty good.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on this show. I do believe this was the first time we had 2 guests in the 21 episodes that we've now been filming these, and it worked out pretty good. We'd love to have you guys back in the future. Is there anything you want to leave our viewers with about Rank, or anything you guys got coming up? Any trade shows you'll be attending?
We just finished our trade show run, but we'll be at all the majors, and I guess we'll see you guys there. Thanks for having us.
Well, for Josh from OfferVault.com, Adam Young, the CEO and founder of Ringba, the #1 pay-per-call tracking platform, the best pay-per-call tracking platform, Harrison Gevirtz, Mr. Only Gains, as well as Yohan Perez and Neil Rubin, CEO as well as co-founder and managing partner over at Rank. Let's make that paper. Let's make that dough. This was the Affiliate Marketing Show. We will see you guys next time.
Affiliate Marketing Show.